whenever it's like, okay, he gets the concept of like hurting other things
Right.
and like doesn't want to do that, because like right now it's just like impulse control.
Does he talk?
Yeah, he talks a lot.
It's
pretty wild.
Yeah, and how long ago did he start talking?
Oh, I mean, like a year. It's funny. A year ago, Faith posted a thing on Facebook we were just talking about yesterday. That was like, yeah, Henry's saying like da 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 a lot, but it was like we weren't sure if he's saying da da or if he's just like, because that was kind of the first
making noises
sound he made. Yeah, he was kind of babbling, but like within the next like month or so, probably like 10 or 11 months old, he had like really figured out like certain words, and like he was saying like sounds. He would go woof woof.
Woof woof.
Yeah, for dogs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was his like indicator that this is a dog.
Yeah, he would see a dog and he'd go woof woof. Or like there was, because we had like this baby sign language book that like has a bunch of like really useful stuff. So it'd be like more, all done, book, and there was a sign language thing, but it's not sign language for dog. It was that was the thing.
Yeah, the actual sign for dog would be too hard for a baby. Or
is that?
It would be this or just snap. So that's why you never snap at a deaf person.
Huh.
People do it though.
Wow.
The instinct is like, hey, listen to, like, when you don't realize that they're not able to hear you.
Yeah.
This is my first time in your house, obviously.
Yes, welcome.
Yes.
The bathroom's right over there on the right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It has really clicked to me that you're a dad.
Oh yeah.
And
you see like the
the
clutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I tidied up too. This was a fucking nightmare 15 minutes ago.
It like seeing your like
right.
You in a bar is. I would have expected football or like baseball to be on the TV, but seeing
if you would have given me like 15 minutes to chill before you got here, like if I had a little bit of a buffer, I would have like gotten some food heated up, sat down, and like maybe thrown on something. Yeah, I would have been a little more presentable.
It's goddamn, like it's trippy to me that you're like the context of you, like if it would be like if you saw me interpret, you'd be like, oh shit, I forgot he does sign language.
Totally.
We've been recording, so I don't know when I'll start this, but that's what it is. Whoever's listening, it is it's November 5th, Friday 2021, and I'm with Jordan Black.
Hi, Aaron Chase.
Dude, you're my first like guest on this.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
that's an honor.
I assume you've never listened to it.
I catch the highlights.
Of course, I do post the highlights.
Like I don't even watch football games. That's the thing. I watch the highlights on YouTube. So whatever,
If you started listening to the podcast pre-doing this, I'd be a little weirded out, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'd be like,
if I was like a fan.
Yeah.
That would be weird. Comics, I don't know. Like I don't think comics are really fans of each other all that much. I think there's one other comic that I'm like a genuine fan of, a buddy of mine.
Okay.
His name's Zach, back in Texas. We like met each other in college at Northlake College, and like kind of just bonded because like we were both like aspiring writers, and he had never done stand up before he met me, and I had been doing it for like 4 years at that point. And then after a little while of knowing each other and writing together and hanging out a lot, like he decided to try it out, and I kind of helped him get into it, but he really like did a lot. He did a lot more for himself than I ever did to help him. But he's just like somebody that's super creative, and like his ideas for like scripts are super original. His style of stand up is like just super unique to him, and he's somebody that like I genuinely always enjoy just hearing what he's got. Or like he did these stupid videos where there was like top 10 videos. It was like parody top 10 videos where he'd be like top 10 Kurt Russell movies.
Right.
And then all the movies would be Patrick Swayze movies. and he would like read them, and you'd never say the right name, and he would just like be just super kind of alternative with it and weird. But that was just like, like if anybody was doing it, it was that guy. But yeah, that's the only comic that I'm really like a fan of.
Yeah, I think it's hard to be. It's not like I'd imagine like Michael Jordan. Maybe I'm about to talk about Kobe and it made me sad again. It's crazy because I don't even give a fuck about sports, you know me. And Kobe was one of those guys that transcended everything. But
it's like Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, it's just like when I think of Kobe Bryant, I think of Charlie Chaplin. But it's not like sports where I'd imagine you can watch. I don't don't know. Maybe you can be a professional athlete and watch other athletes and be a fan in that way. But comedy feels different in that it's an art form, and it's like it requires surprise. And as a comic, you're not really surprised.
Like that's whenever and that's kind of the bummer of being a comic and doing it for long enough that like you just kind of stop enjoying it as much.
Yes.
Like especially if I'm on like a show and I'm just there like waiting for I'm in another place in another world, and like. So I have to really like, okay, I'm going to see a show and like paying money and having a few drinks and sitting here without any kind of ulterior thoughts to actually even like laugh.
When you're on a show, do you watch the comic right before you?
Yeah.
Do you do that because you just do that, or do you do that? Because I do it out of strategy. Like
so you could be like, yeah, last guy said this.
Yeah, I want to know the context. I want to know if I might be saying something similar.
For sure. Yeah, like that's definitely a valuable like part of it. I think like I do it in at least the core of why I make it a point to watch the person before me is like out of respect. It's like I always watch the person before me, and I watch like I watch usually the 2 or 3 before me, minimum, and then like I watch the 2 after me. I feel like that's what I owe the room.
I'm going to adapt to your thought process because mine is, I don't know. I mean,
I think context is like, it's a value. It's a reasonable reason to want to like be a part. Because if someone's up in the front row and they're heckling and you don't know, right? If you weren't in the room, or if you just, weren't really paying attention and they address something that, no one else had addressed, and then you kind of don't realize that.
Right.
Yeah. Like it could set you up to have a weird set.
Well, we've talked a little bit about me working on myself, finding myself, man, not smoking weed.
Yeah.
Which has been a thing.
Said the guy with the dreadlocks.
I know, right? The dreadlocks and his voice. But I've come to realize I'm violently competitive. Like
same. Yeah. I'm yeah.
But the fact that you do that, you wait for the 2 comics and the 2 comics out of respect. Like my mentality would be 2 comics to see who I can be better than.
Right. No, I mean that is a subconscious, like a part of me that I just never get rid of. Right. It's like I'm competitive in dumb shit, like
checkers or whatever.
Well, I mean, I play chess, but yeah, like I'll kick my wife's ass in some chess. I taught her how to play whenever we first met, and like played a lot on like the phone. She did all these pictures here she took in Italy.
She took these?
Yeah. On her phone. Isn't that bullshit?
What? Okay, so for context, there's
6 photos.
They look like, when you go into the fake houses, the like walk-through house.
Totally.
They don't look really
like they're staged here to like sell it. Yeah. No, these are like I said, these are all cell phone photos. It's why I think the only one that you can really like tell it's a cell phone picture is this one here, because it's just really grainy. Because it's at night. It's the only one that's at night, and so you can tell the like cameras aren't meant to.
Is she like a nurse or something?
Yeah.
Why the fuck is she talented in art?
See, she's not a photographer.
How did she do that?
She was just taking pictures of places that she went, and she's just like. And I studied video technology, and like composition and composing an image is something that's really like a long process in studying that. And like I'm like, you exemplify so many incredible like. You
just said exemplify.
Yeah, exemplify.
that's a word.
No, like I'm a big stan of my wife. Let's see. Oh, here, leading lines is something that they call leading lines. And anyway, this is really not a great thing to do for an audio podcast, but go fuck yourself, guys.
No one listens to this.
So whenever you talk about like lead the eye in a direction, right? So you have lines leading somewhere. That's what it's doing here. Everything's kind of going down to this vanishing point at the end. Visual weight, having like the contrast of something so insanely big and ornate with just like the moon in the background.
She just has an eye for it.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
That's
like
so
that was some of the weirder things. Like she wasn't like, oh yeah, here's what I was trying to do. She was just like, no, I just took these pictures and thought they looked cool.
Did you meet her? You didn't meet her through comedy. You met her pre-comedy?
Yeah. Oh no, I was doing comedy at the time that we started dating. So our second date was to an open mic.
Whew, how did you do?
I did okay. It wasn't like
okay. You didn't embarrass her. She's here.
No, I didn't embarrass.
You got a baby out of her, so I guess it went well.
Yeah, it went okay. That's good. I like, we met on Tinder.
Hot.
Yeah, which is so weird. I had only been on one Tinder date before her, and it wasn't even like a date. It was like this chick was just kind of like, I don't want to say that she was like trying to get a meal out of it.
Okay.
But like she insisted that she paid, and I insisted that I would pay for her.
Oh, she fucking.
And it was like a lunch thing.
Okay.
Right, so it's like not a date.
Yeah.
And then we like went walking around our like this area of town, and went to a bookstore, and then like she was like, "Well, I gotta go," and that was it.
Yeah.
Like super nothing. And then the next Tinder date I went on, I met my wife. Like, how wild is that?
That's beautiful. I'm so jealous of you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, and I also talked about my infidelity is not the right word. My I don't know how to describe it without being
You're a man of many tastes.
Pussy. I just love tasting different types of pussy.
I love, man, the pH balance on this shit's fucking
delectable.
delectable.
Tastes like a community pool.
God.
No,
Lucky ladies out there listening to this here podcast.
Right. I am jealous that you clearly love your wife. And you seem happy, and you have a kid, and you're not angry about it. You're not like fighting about paying child support or whatever.
Oh, for real? Yeah, that's some shit. I don't know, my wife is an amazing person, and like we always say, like even if this never worked out, like if the worst case scenario is that like we're just like really tight co-parents,
that's
and like
good.
That's the worst case scenario.
I mean, I think working with kids. I told you I'm a sub now.
Yeah.
Okay. Working with kids, I see bad parenting. Like, I don't even need to see the parents to know that it's bad parenting. So like meeting a good parent is a
breath of fresh air.
It really, most parents are bad parents. Like Henry. Or do you want me to beep that? I don't know if you want your kid's name.
No, that's fine. I talk about him in my act and stuff.
He's not school age yet.
No.
Like, sending your kid out there with the rest of these goddamn ghouls to take in whatever their stupid parents injected into them.
Yeah.
Like, how do you plan on navigating?
Oh, dude, I fucking like that is something that I'm so not prepared for. I had a moment where we were out at a park down the street from our place, and it was that was Bella's cough, like I was saying.
It's like a Muppet. Okay.
No. Yeah, we were at this park down the street, and Henry had been like just kind of under the playground playing, and it was like a lot of kids around. This was a couple months ago in the summertime, and this bigger kid walks up, and he didn't like do anything to my kid or like push him or even like touch him, but he walked up with his friend, and he just mean mugged my kid until my kid felt uncomfortable and left. Which, like, I was proud of my son in that moment. It's like, hey, good on you for having good like vibes and knowing like, hey, I need to get out of here, right? Like this isn't a good situation for me. And so he just like walked off and like walked back to me, and like there was just very clearly my son was uncomfortable by someone else's actions toward him, and like this kid just clearly wanted my kid to leave the area so that he could play under this thing or whatever. And I was like, that was just a real like parenting moment that's just like, oh my God, the world is so evil. Yeah. And like, and
you want to kill that kid, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't want to kill the kid, but like I wanted to like fuck his mom, like in ruin his life. Right? Yeah, not like a sexual like, oh yeah, his mom was hot. I don't even know if his mom was there. I think his dad was there, but I was just like, yeah, I'd fuck your mom just to ruin your life. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? That was I think the most severe thing that I would do.
It's what's weird about that is how old was that kid? The bigger kid?
Probably like 4 or 5.
That's crazy because
I don't know. No, he's probably like 7.
7?
I think, yeah. His
parents are fucked up. There's just no reason, there's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
And it's sad and angering, and it's like, that kid is going to get older and just download all of his issues on other people.
Yeah.
And are you going to put him in like jujitsu or some shit?
I don't know. I mean, like, we're not super like he's gonna do like obviously as a parent, like you want to share interests with your kid, so like I really would like to be able to like watch my son play baseball, like that would be great, like, and be able to share my love of that game with my son. Or football. Like I'm less about football because just the physical toll.
Jesus.
Yeah, the physical toll that it takes on on children especially. But you know, that's definitely a thing. But I'm like, you know, if my kid like, if he's passionate about something, like I'm gonna like that thing. Like if my kid was really passionate about like drawing, like I would be all about that shit. Like that would be, I don't draw. I have the worst fucking handwriting of all time. I could not at all like meet him in the middle and like participate. But if she showed like a passion for that, then it would be really special.
Would there? Okay, first off, I got two questions here, and I wanted to lead into your comedy life and how you got here in the first place. So I'm figuring this out.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, having guests on is a very different experience.
It does feel different.
Yeah.
I'm usually just in my little hole talking to myself.
In the closet because the sound is good.
No, I'm not even. I should do that. Why have I not been doing that? But did your parents support this art shit? Because I don't know how much you want to talk about your mom and your life or whatever, but
I mean, like my parents were very supportive of like performing, and my parents met in theater class in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they were doing Taming of the Shrew. My mom always made a joke like, how
sure.
apt.
Yeah, very cute.
Yeah, but no, so like they were both. My dad was a blues musician. As I was like, so I would sing. My dad would bring me up on stage and have me sing Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze.
Okay.
And he'd like sit me on the stool so that I would be tall enough to be at the microphone level.
Yeah. Gave you a fake afro.
Yeah.
Okay. Gave you some LSD.
No, not that far. I think my dad was a little more woke than that.
Oh, that's good.
But no, and like so I had done that performing, and then in high school, like my dad and I was always like sports and stuff like that. But he was also a musician, so music was a part of my upbringing, and I have I credit him with a large majority of my music tastes. But whenever I got into high school and I stopped really being interested in sports, I started getting more interested in theater and acting and stuff. And actually, my dad got me my first comedy gig ever.
Wow. How did you do that?
So he was working at this bar as a bartender, and I guess he technically was just like the guy who dealt with anybody who wanted to perform because they had a stage, and of course it's a dive bar, so occasionally a band will come through that wants to play. And so this guy came through saying, "Hey, I want to do a comedy show here." He was a club promoter. He had never done comedy in his life, but he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do a comedy show because I'm a funny, wacky guy." So it was both of our first times doing comedy.
I'm writing this down. I'm with you. I'm just writing stuff down.
Okay, gotcha. So my dad. So anyway, this guy's like, "Yeah, I've never done comedy, but I'm gonna do a comedy show, right?" So I don't know any comics. So I need an opener, and since you're the guy who books the talent for this bar, you must know an opener. My dad goes, "Well, my kid's interested in doing stand-up comedy."
Yeah.
And he, he calls me and goes, "Hey, you think you could do 11 minutes?"
God damn, really?
And and I was like, "Yeah."
Totally.
Dude, I was such a fucking like, I just went for it.
How old were you?
And I was 16. Yeah. So I because you hear 11 minutes and that's a snap of the finger. You just fucking, oh, whoops, has it been 11 minutes already?
Right.
But on stage and in stage life, that is an entirely different time, and so like you think, oh yeah, I can talk for 11 minutes straight, no problem. But then whenever you're doing it completely rhetorically without any other input, like you really don't realize how much time 11 minutes is. So I had already had a couple of jokes like written out in a notebook because I'd been thinking about doing comedy, as most comics do. They they premeditate a little bit,
of course.
And so I sat down and like read those out loud and like timed myself, and it was like 2.5 minutes, and I thought I was like fucking there, and I was like, oh god, and it was like a week away.
You're giving me anxiety.
Yeah, no, it was an anxious and very exciting thing to do because I just like frantically was writing material and like watching stand up and watching this documentary called I Am Comic. Of course, it's like, I don't know, it's one of those that I come back to as an adult, as an adult comic, and I go, that movie fucking sucks. But it's such a good movie whenever you're like watching it for the at that first like 6 months of comedy, you're just like, oh my god, it's so fucking cool, this is a crazy lifestyle. And so anyway, I got to 11 minutes of material it was just whatever I could put on paper, right? Like none of it was, none of it's anything I do now.
Of course.
But it was 11 minutes on stage. And like, the show was weird, didn't really go all that well. But like I got a laugh or two, you know what I mean? Which is like enough. Like that first set that you ever do, if you get a laugh or two, those moments are just like the fucking,
it's
the
like
crack
a firework going off.
Right. You live off of that for a while. And so then the other, the headliner, the club promoter that went up on stage just bombed for 30 minutes. And
was he self-aware bombing, or was he?
I think so. I like there was like a moment, and it's such a weird moment to have at 16 with like a 45-year-old Hispanic guy on stage, where you kind of go, I'm the one in control here, right? Like I had the good show, like the audience can kind of like there's a big dick in the room, and I think he realized in that moment like, oh, it's not mine, and I kind of was like, yeah, that's a rough moment to witness as a grown man, like kind of have, and at one point he even like opened up the floor for like a joke contest, and he asked people like, hey, what jokes? So he like brought other people up to tell jokes. And like even in that moment, like having never been to a comedy show in my life,
That's a bad idea.
I went, oh, that's not what you're supposed to fucking be doing right now. I was like, they're not here to tell jokes. You're here to fucking tell jokes.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, it was one of those things like it was such a weird experience, such a weird introduction to stand up. But at the same time, it's like that experience is so ingrained in me, and it set me up in such a weird way, like just how unconventional comedy was in general already for me, that it was never any weirder than that. Like it was just fucking weird from the beginning, and then it's like, oh, you want me to do comedy in a convenience store? Tight, like no fucking problem. That's just the next door.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, a thump. No, something went thump in the night, and Aaron is
sketched out, bro.
Yeah.
With this in Logan Square, the violence that occurs. Yeah. This whole Chicago violence thing is bullshit, by the way. Mm-hmm. Not that it doesn't happen. I'm sure people get shot everywhere all the time.
Right.
But like, did you get that when you were playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you get shot. It's like, it's fine.
Right.
Like, it's just like any other city where you go to the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm sure something can happen, but don't go there.
Right.
I don't know.
Like, fucking steer clear, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that was something that so many people, obviously, especially like you're from a more liberal part of the country, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I'm from the more the inarguably more conservative part of the country.
Oh, yeah, you're from Texas. Everybody.
Yeah, I'm from Texas. Yeah, I grew up in North Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Is Houston's the liberal part, right?
Well, I mean, no, there's not really a liberal part like geographically, but the cities are all liberal.
Okay.
I guess, so Fort Worth, there's Dallas, Fort Worth, and that's like a metroplex, kind of like Minneapolis, St. Paul. But basically, like Fort Worth is a little redneck because it's, a cattle town that just kind of grew up into a big city. But at the same time, it's still more liberal than like all of the suburbs around it. And, Dallas is really liberal, and then all the major cities. But then as you get into just the smaller towns and rural areas, it's where, and obviously the big cities still have the significant pockets of conservative thinkers. But,
which you are not. Let's clarify.
No, I'm a stand-up comedian, Aaron.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
There's only like two conservative ones I can think of. There's I can't even think of their names. Whatever.
Sorry, I gotta silence my phone. That was really unprofessional of me. My fucking phone's over here dinging. I got a group chat for my improv class that's fucking going off right now.
Oh yeah, how's that? I have so many.
Yeah,
I need to
so
get
many
better
things
at
that
this.
we want to talk about.
It's my brain hole goes in so many different directions.
No, yeah, I'm so happy to be your shaman through. I don't know if shaman is the right word because I'm not really guiding you through hosting an interview, but I'm more of your test dummy.
I think, and I said this in the car when I forgot all of the equipment, is that I think I enjoy your company because you're patient with me, which I see you don't disagree with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a kid, dude.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's hard to not be patient with people in general. whenever you have to be patient with a fucking tiny little just monster.
Do you attract people like me? Like, do you tend to be between the two of us? I feel like if we were Jay and Silent Bob, I'm Jay, you're Silent Bob. Like, I'm
really?
loud and crazy and spastic, and you have a more chill vibe to you.
It's funny because like it just depends on like the situation, and I do very much like feed off of other people's energy.
Okay.
You know, like I, you know, I'll be kind of crazy and loud with somebody that's a little more chill. Like if that's what I feel like this person needs, and it's not like I make a conscious decision. It's just kind of how relationships evolve. But that's funny because whenever you talk about attracting people like you, or you know, bringing, which I don't know what kind of type of person you even think you are.
I think
because if you think you're Jay. You're not Jay from Jay and Silent
Not
Bob.
the best example,
Yeah.
but I think what I am is I have the type of people I attract. Okay, well, men versus women is different. I attract
Totally.
women that are usually pretty crazy, and I attract guys that are very chill. And coming out here, I've made a very conscious decision to put myself around energy that I feel is positive.
Right.
But I don't know. What do you think? This actually goes into a question that I have. I wrote this down.
Okay, let's hear it.
This out.
You got a question?
First impressions of each other.
Okay, yeah. So, for the listeners, we met at Rose's open mic.
It's gonna go down in history, bro. This moment.
Yeah, dude, that moment. This magic moment. When your lips were 5.5 feet away from mine,
when we spoke to
across
each
the
other,
table.
and we had masks on, I think.
No, but we were at this mic, and I don't know. I was very like nervous, not nervous, just anxious because it was like I'd probably done 2 mics at that point. That might have been my second mic, actually. I think I'd done Derek Strong's mic, the first thing I ever did in Chicago, and then went to that one on a whim. And I was just very much like, I need to meet other comics, and I need to start making friends and making impressions, and you know, and I just felt like this pressure to do that. And I was sitting at the bar, but you know, I also know how comics can be, and like I don't want to be too much, and I don't want to like, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to just fuck up, you know, and like go, hey everybody, my name's Jordan, and everyone's like, get the fuck out of here, you douchebag. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, and we're in Chicago, and you have this mind of I had this perception of Chicago comics as like Boston. But they're different, apparently.
Yeah, very different. You know, I think like anyway. So there's a table of like 5 comics, and they're kind of just sitting behind me talking, and I just was eavesdropping because there was fucking like 10 of us in there maybe, and not a lot of noise. And so I heard Aaron talking about like how he just moved to Chicago, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's nice. Like there was even just in that moment like a subtle little like feeling of comfort knowing like, okay, cool, like I'm not the only person here that's completely fucking out of their element. And so that gave me a little bit of the courage to just even like turn around and be like, hey, nice to meet you guys, to like the group. And you know, went and sat down and, you know, I guess talked to you about moving and kind of like the culture shock. You know, so my first impression of you was just, you know, nice guy, like you chill, California, hang loose, bro. You know, that was about it.
It's so crazy that, and I'll definitely get to my first impression of you as well, which was still in a haze of weed, so I'm sorry.
It's fair.
But not even weed, Delta 8. Ugh. But it's crazy to me that people perceive me as this chill guy, because where I'm from, I'm considered high-strung and angry. Like, that's how I'm perceived. And I think a big part of that is coming to a place where I'm safe and feel comfortable and all that stuff. But I remember my goal coming out here was to lay low and to like not bother people.
Right.
And I don't know how that conversation started, because I don't know. I do remember feeling like I was loud, like I felt like I was taking over the conversation a little bit, but
I think you were definitely the focal point of the conversation, but it wasn't, you know, in my impression as well, it wasn't like you were taking over. It was like people were interested in
it's California,
and they were like we were asking you questions and stuff, and there was like a part of me, and this is where, you know, competitive, and you can kind of see the not chill side of me, was like, I wish they would ask me questions about where I'm from.
Really?
You know what I mean? Or like why the fuck isn't anyone interested in me? Or like, you have a very charismatic attitude. You're a really cool guy. So like, it's really easy to just be like, this fucking guy. Like, I want to know more about him. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, once again, similarly to you, I was very much trying to just lay low, not ruffle feathers, right? So like, I didn't want to try to push too hard and talk too much.
Well, I remember I got excited when I think you said you were maybe a week after me.
No, I was like 5 days before you.
5 days before me?
Because whenever you went to Rose's, you were there for like a week or less.
Fuck. I'm so glad.
And I had been there I had been here for 10 days or 2 weeks at that point.
So basically around
like within a week of each other, we had moved here together.
I was excited because I had that same reaction of like, oh, other people are new. Like, I'm not alone in being alone out here.
Right.
And I've been hearing that apparently this scene is new. It's like the lawn has been cut post-COVID.
Right.
And it's all new, mostly new people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been, I don't know, that's been a good, I think we came at the right time, if that makes sense.
That's what she said.
Oh.
Yeah, we definitely came at the right time. Yeah, like that was like meeting you was an important thing for me, just to feel like comfortable and to know. Like I even sent you a message saying like, hey, I don't know if you feel this way, but like it's just really cool to like to know that I'm not like out of my element on my own. Like just to have somebody even like, hey, I'm fucking nervous about getting on the bus. Are you? You know what I mean? Like, right? Like, just shit like that. To have somebody that I know is also going through that, and also going through the comedy landscape, because my wife and I, you know, are in the same boat, in the same house, literally, but it's very different. Like, she's not a comic. She's got a job, and she's training, and it's, you know, there's similarities, but it's also very different from stand-up comedy, and the just, you know, social dynamics of getting involved in a scene and making friends and, you know, that kind of thing.
So me and my ex feel.
Yeah.
I can't believe this. The situation that I'm in. But yeah,
it's wacky.
It is. It's
a real.
I feel like my life has been wacky. You seem like, it feels like your life. I don't get the sense that you've attracted insanity in your life.
No, I think I make it a pretty like simple like point that just you know, I spend my time on good people, right? And that was like where you know, what attracted me to you is like, this guy is a good person.
Oh, thank you.
It wasn't hard to be like, oh yeah, this person is just like conscious and, you know, cares about other people, and it doesn't, you know.
I'm so glad you met me now, because if you met me,
sure, I'm glad you met me now. Like I'm glad a bunch of people met me at the time they did, and it's unfortunate that some people met me at the time they did, you know, as well.
What were you different? Like, how different were you pre-COVID?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't like a lot different pre-COVID. COVID didn't change. I think just being a dad is what changed me, and then COVID happened right after that moment, and it was like, well, fuck. Like,
I guess what were you pre-fatherhood?
You know, I was like kind of an asshole. I think it's more like pre-faith and post-faith. My wife.
I thought you meant Christianity. Okay.
No. I credit my wife and just her, you know, coming into my life as like the biggest change. In like who I am, because I cared about her so much that like I made a lot of conscious decisions to be better and to try to like be a better person and to communicate more and to be more understanding. And
what were you pre-faith?
Kind of an asshole, like manipulative.
Really?
Like, yeah, like I was also jealous and angry. You know, I think before faith, I was a very lonely person, and I just wanted to find my person, you know? And so whenever I found her, a lot of like unanswered questions were answered finally. And it was just kind of like, okay, like this part of my book is there now. And now I felt a lot more comfortable to like, I feel better about doing stand-up, and I felt better about writing and, you know, all that stuff. But I just think like having somebody in your, like people say like a good woman will change a man.
Yeah.
You know, and I will fucking go to my grave saying that, because like she definitely did. you know, and there are things like about her preemie that she would be like, oh yeah, Jordan, she was not a very communicative person. She like didn't like conflict or didn't like having difficult discussions, because we don't argue, but we have like kind of contradictory opinions, and we come at it right, to try to reach understanding rather than to be right, you know. But she didn't like that. And I had to like kind of force her for a while, like really just drag her along with me and make her talk to me and make her tell me about how she was feeling and what she was thinking, you know, where she would have just wanted to shut down and not talk about it. So, you know, there are things about, you know, both of us pre us that we both evolved as a couple and as people, but she was definitely like 100% the better person whenever we met. I just was fortunate that she didn't, you know, pull the veil back on me.
So faith was your catalyst to becoming a better person.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess for me it was clicking to that stand up was the thing I need to do. But it didn't make me, it gave me focus finally, because pre stand up it was just like, I guess I'll find some pussy. I'll fill this hole with vagina meat.
I'll fill this hole with holes.
Yeah, just so many holes. And
Shia LaBeouf.
That's a great movie.
Yeah,
it's a
good book. I never read it, but I heard.
I hear it's a good book as well.
I don't read.
Readings for pussies. But
readings for people with spare time.
Losers. But my pre stand up, it was just like I was like Barney from fucking How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, this is what I do, I guess. And then when it finally clicked, like, oh, stand up is what I need to do. I had focus, but I didn't have my personality yet, and I was depressed and I was angry, and I was surrounded by people that weren't helping it. And I was very vocal about very cries for help, on stage is I'm depressed still somehow. And then when COVID happened, I think COVID was my faith. COVID was like a step back and a time to actually reflect on myself, because I couldn't be around people. I couldn't do stand up or anything else.
There was nothing left to fill that hole.
Right. Yeah. Except for Buddhism and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which, Jesus, weirdly helpful in my life. But
I find that a lot of there's a small sect.
Yeah.
Of I think mostly Buddhists probably is that, that think Last Airbender, or that took a lot from The Last Airbender.
It was like
Aang changed my life.
If I was willing to shave my head and get that fucking tattoo, right. I do plan on getting an Avatar tattoo, but we'll get there when we get there. But it really it's frustrating because, not frustrating, but talking about it makes me feel so silly, because it's really silly to be a cartoon.
Objectively it is a silly thing, but there's meaning in everything.
Yes.
And it's a story, just fucking the Bible is just a collection of
stories.
It's
and the circumstance, the context in which I was watching it, my life at the time, it just clicked in this perfect way.
Yeah.
And fucking thank Christ that happened. I'm one of those people who is I'm so happy that the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. Did you lose anybody?
No, nobody really close. I lost, I think, 2 or 3 family members. The closest one was my my Aunt Julie, who's my mom's cousin. So my mom and her were close. Mm-hmm. I was kind of she was around, but I wasn't super close to her.
I lost my uncle, and I would say probably closer than what you've just described, but not
like a father figure.
Not a father figure, but someone who was around enough for it to be wow, this is very, very real. The COVID stuff, I think that was the other thing that helped me put things into perspective, was they say pressure makes diamonds, and it also shows who a person really is. Mm-hmm. And I felt oh, I'm becoming a diamond. I'm internally, this pressure is making me whatever I am is a good person.
Right.
At least relative to what the fuck I'm seeing around me.
Sure.
And I don't know, did you have any family member? You're Texas. I assume family's kind of weird now, or is it?
With the state of COVID, and do we believe in it? Do we not?
COVID, Trump, the vaccine,
there's definitely a divide. I think like my family for the most part like understood that this is a real thing. We need to be careful. Like, you know? But at the same time, like they're all like conservative people that voted for Trump. And that's a challenging.
Did they? Know. Okay, that's the Trump stuff is mind-boggling to me.
It is. It's boggled my mind for 5 years now.
When he first became president, I was like, all right, okay, let's see what happens.
Right.
And subsequently, I'm pretty sure like the next day he started popping off and being Trump.
Things got weird
immediately,
really quick. Yeah.
And every passing year, I was like, "Are you guys not done yet? Like, is this not?
How has this not been enough?
Yeah, this is objectively not okay." And I remember, so during the pandemic, I met this girl. I'm not gonna say her name, and she was sweet and just such a good-hearted person, but gullible.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
And
like.
Yeah. And I think this also confused me because it was when the Buddhism stuff started. It was when I was like, okay, I want a faith. Or something in that realm. Like, let me really do this. I was talking to her with good communication. I was in it, man. And she just kept fucking it up. Like, she kept self-sabotaging, and she kept sprinkling in this QAnon shit. And I was like, how?
She was like, yeah, here, try these essential oils instead of that ibuprofen.
Yeah. You know, what the fuck is her name? That pussy egg that she sells. You know who I'm talking?
Gwyneth Paltrow?
Gwyneth Paltrow, that type of shit. Like
Goop.
Oh my God. She was the type of girl who I think would have been tricked by that.
Yeah.
And it's
like she's got an Instagram account for like healthy living, you know.
She was what I liked about her was that she didn't put herself out there. She was very like, you be the performy guy and I'll sit and be supportive. And she was very white. And I remember Yeah. And this is actually what has.
And before you ask, she is. That was that moment.
Very, very white.
Okay.
And black women don't get tricked by goop. They get tricked by Tyler Perry movies. But I remember I went over to her house, and her dad was an ex-police chief who had Fox News on all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember. This is just trailing off. I don't know my point. Well, we'll get somewhere eventually. But I remember sitting there and meeting him, and he was nice to me. But I was uncomfortable. It was when I was learning my gut. It was when I was like, okay, I feel uncomfortable. I know I'm not crazy. I'm not making shit up. Like, there's something off here. And she was insulted, understandably so. It's her dad.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put into words, like, I don't even know where I'm going with it.
Like he was sizing you up for the potential civil war.
Maybe.
And he was just kind of like, oh, so this is the best they've got? This is this is your champion, libtards? This is the man you send to fuck my daughter. Oh, how funny. I would eat this man's dinner, motherfucker. Like, it's just, yeah, I like, if I was going to imagine, that's how I imagine it.
That's, that was kind of what it was.
Yeah.
And it makes me, I go back and forth between anger and sadness, where the anger is like, it feels so obvious. I don't know if you get angry with your family where you're like, this is so obvious. How do you not?
Yeah, there's, that's the issue of being, it's kind of like, caring for and loving like somebody who's an addict.
Yeah.
Or somebody who's got like a serious problem that you can't reach. And it's just like, those are all feelings that, are very valid in that kind of a situation, like anger. And then now it's just kind of like,
you are what you are.
Yeah, dude. Like, there's nothing I can fucking do to convince you, because, like, at this point, there's been enough evidence.
Yeah.
There's enough. Like, if you Just take a moment to think.
I think what hurts me is, I'm gonna bring it right back to you. Get ready.
Tight.
Watch this go, baby.
Hell yeah.
It's a little boomerang. But I think what hurts me is that I've accepted that they are what they are for the most part, but that something as simple as my life mattering, they can't And I know they jump through these. Well, everybody, all lives. Well, blue life, but QAnon, but the rapists and the libtard, and they'll find every.
Whataboutisms.
Everything.
Are really, really frustrating.
And have you watched South Park?
I haven't kept up with it, but I'm very familiar with it from.
Do you remember the fish sticks episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fish sticks.
Do you remember when Cartman thinks he made the joke and the story potential?
Right.
And Kyle's like, I believe that you believe that you made the joke. I believe that you genuinely have made this story in your head, and it's so like it's become so infuriating and depressing at the same time. And so to bring it back to you, I remember I did one of my racially fucking charged jokes. I can't remember. It was pretty early on too. And I remember your reaction was exactly what I think white people should react to it, which is, yep.
Yep.
You don't.
What was it? I don't even remember.
The joke?
What the joke? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was it was growing out my hair, house Negro, field Negro, and then I said this is the one that always makes people uncomfortable in the North Side. I said that. I do like a Karen-ish voice. And I'm like, this is what happens when we give these niggers February. And the reaction is always, whoa, this is crazy. And it's like, guys, have you not seen, like, this is real. Like,
yeah, that's how people fucking think.
This is really how they think. And you didn't do the conservative thing of
trying to diminish.
Yeah, well, this isn't what, no, but you didn't do the overly liberal thing, which also gets on my nerves of like sucking my dick over it. It's like,
oh, you are so mistreated.
Right.
And you know what? Let me buy you a beer.
Yeah.
Because that's my step today of closing the racial wealth gap.
I fixed it. Here's a Pabst, bro. You're good now, right? And so it's the just treat me like a fucking human.
Yeah.
And you did that, and that's.
Sure.
I remember being in the car. You gave me a ride, I think, somewhere to like a train station, and I was just like, "Thanks for treating me like a person." And it surprises me that coming from Texas, that you have this mentality. Like, where does that come from? I brought it back to you,
dude. Like, yeah, there it is. Like, real talk. I was a prejudiced person.
Oh, I want to hear about this.
I don't know, man. Like in high school, there's just like I grew up around black people. My mother's best friend. Excuse you. Do you need to take that?
No, I'm getting spam called, and it's pissing me off because it's going to happen again.
Yeah. My mother's like best friend growing up, or my mother's best friend whenever I was a kid was black. And she had 2 black sons, and we were really close. And also, like, my dad's wife's best friend was black, and she had 2 sons, Dorian and Lamar, and they were, like, my best friends, like, my first best friends. And I was just really close to black people. I looked up to Michael Jordan as, like, a hero. He is literally who I'm named after.
Really?
Yeah, I'm named after Michael Jordan. I was born in 95, so
I guess that makes sense.
It's a lot of people, a lot less white people.
Dude, I'm older than you.
Yeah. How old are you?
30.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
All
right. You're saying
comedy, man.
And your last name's Black. It's perfect.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, so it wasn't even like a thing that was like built in me, right? Like it's not like I had racist parents or anything, and I don't know, where the liberal part of me is like everyone there is an implicit, like in systematic racism, yes, and I do think that like whenever I started getting into like middle school and high school, the kind of cultural shift that happened between like my white friends and my black friends was pretty shocking, right?
What do you mean?
I think like the types of like media that we both consume, like the really like more hardcore vulgar like rap and stuff never really appealed to me. And like watching shows like the Boondocks, you know what I mean? Like, and that was a show that I could like catch every once in a while and be like, okay, that's funny. But like that being, you know,
it
what I
didn't
mean?
speak
Like
to you on a personal level.
no, it didn't. And then there was just like I don't, you know, I can't speak from a place of like actually knowing, but there's that level of like once young black boys start to kind of become men, they really start to understand like, you know, the harsh realities, you know, that they live, and you know, there's a lot of times some kind of like residual angers and outlets for that feeling, you know, which are all like super valid. And like I, as an adult now, and especially as a father, I look at like, I'm like, they were kids, and they're kids that live in a racist society that have to reckon with the fact that like, yeah, cops aren't necessarily here to protect you all the time, right? Like just things like that you have to learn as a black person is just like, I could never fucking, you know, understand that. But like I said, the ways that are, you know, like the personalities and just kind of like that kind of thing, you know, just didn't resonate a lot with a lot of like my black peers. And I was in sports, and I just kind of like felt like a lot of the black people that I was around were just kind of assholes.
Yeah.
And I, in my teenage years, just kind of like, well, equated that to the black culture. That's just, you know, of course.
That's how they are.
They listen to that shitty music, and they treat each other like shit, and they're, you know, violent. And they try to beat each other up in the fucking locker room and stuff. That was where I was coming from. And like I said, obviously as an adult, I'm like,
The nuances of it.
yeah, there's a lot of nuances to that. And like, but as a kid, I didn't get it. I just saw like, yeah, a lot of the people that are fucking being assholes to me are black and not white, you know? And so that was kind of where a lot of it came from. And whenever like, I remember whenever Michael Brown happened and Ferguson happened, like Fox was just like the channel that my mom watched, but it wasn't even like she watched Fox News a lot. But if I was like, oh, what news channel is there? Fox News is the news, you know? And so I didn't even realize that there was like a bias to news at that point in life. And so I remember watching like the Ferguson riots and stuff like that happening, and I was just kind of like, well, Michael Brown shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
And I was hearing all the rhetoric from one side of it, and you know, those talking points were being kind of fed to me through the internet, which is you know, obviously a huge fucking talking point now. But that was where like I kind of was like, I was on that path.
Yeah.
I was pretty close.
Was there like a moment, a shift?
Yeah, there was.
Ooh.
And it's such a weird,
It
it is such a strange thing. And like, this is not a new thing. I remember feeling it like the week that this happened. So, and it's super innocuous, and it doesn't really like.
I'm so excited.
It's not a big moment, but it was like the moment that I can look to and go, wow. It was a moment I was just like, this chick on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
She went to my school. We had never talked.
Black, white. Okay.
Like just kind of, she had pink hair.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so.
Anti-Texas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. And so she had just tweeted on Twitter randomly. Like she wasn't even responding to a tweet of mine or anything. She was kind of like, anybody ever notice how Jordan Black is just a piece of shit? Like just really like low key racist as fuck. And I was just kind of like, it really hurt. And it's like, this person meant it to hurt, and they just wanted to like be shitty towards me, which.
Wait, you were in high school when this happened?
I think I was like the summer. When was the Ferguson thing? Because that was like right at the end of high school.
For you?
For me.
Okay.
It was like 2014. I graduated in June.
Oh shit, dog. Okay.
So yeah, like I was pretty fresh out, and I don't know. It might have even been like a year after high school, but it all kind of blends.
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
At that like senior year to like through freshman year, that 2-year period was like the same thing. But yeah, I remember that moment and being like, this person clearly doesn't want to educate me. And doesn't want, like, it wasn't like they were just trying to be like, hey, I need you to hear this, right? They just wanted to hurt me. But at the same time, it was true, right? Like, I'm grateful for that moment and the fact that I could, like, kind of go, maybe that's a little true. Like, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture here.
What?
And it was just, like, a very gradual process of, like, hearing things and kind of going, well, what if they're right?
What do you know what set her off? Like what you did?
No, I mean, like, it was probably just a
statement.
a random, like, share on Facebook. Or, like, why are you guys getting all fucking mad about this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember any of the specific things that I would have said about, like, that whole situation or anything going on at that time. But, you know, I was probably just like, hey, don't run from the cops and they won't shoot you.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? Those basic talking points that you know, I had been hearing on the news and recycled in comments on my posts and things that I had been seeing on Facebook. So that was kind of where I was coming from. And yeah, I don't know what really like made her like, this is when I'm going to do this, or if there was anything that specifically, you know, made her feel the need to like call me out like that. Like I said, it's one of those things where I don't credit her because she didn't do it the right way.
No, it doesn't sound
right.
like it at all.
Like that's a shitty, you know. But it's also like, you know, that's frustration with somebody.
Yeah.
But it's even like we were so early in it at that point where it's like, at this point, if you're still racist, not a lot we can do about that. Like, you know, it's going to be pretty hard for me to reach you if you're like, especially a grown up. You know, I was 18 or 19, maybe 20. No, I was 18 or 19. And I was at a point where I was kind of like, yeah, maybe I am not right. Like, maybe I'm incorrect and I'm, you know, I've got some shit inside of me that I need to, you know, I need to work on.
It's a shockingly mature thing for an 18, 19-year-old to do.
Yeah, and, you know, it wasn't like a conscious, like I heard those words, but I felt the hurt of like feeling like judged and feeling like called out and just kind of like embarrassed, right? I think I might have even deleted my Twitter after that because I was just like, I need to get away from that.
Yeah.
Fucking powder keg. But yeah, I just, like I said, there was a feeling of like truth to what she was saying that I couldn't just like ignore.
It's funny because and maybe this is why I feel this duality. Like when I talk to black people in the South Side, when I bring any of this stuff up, it's just anger. There is no sadness. There is no like hurt from what I've seen so far. It's just like, yeah, nigga, obviously. But it's like for me, I grew up in essentially what sounds like a similar environment that you grew up in, but I was black, and so I heard all the talking points it goes back and forth, where part of me is like I'm there and I see it and I see how they don't get it.
Right.
I can see if you're surrounded by all this, you don't get it. But at the same time, it's like you're telling a kid that everything is their fault all the time. And I remember, I mean, I could tell you story after story. I remember one of the moments that is burned in my brain that makes me angry and sad. I was dating this girl. Wasn't close with my dad, and my grandpa had died when I was like a teenager, like early on. It was I just needed a father figure. I needed a male figure. And so I'm dating this girl, and her dad was the closest thing I could get to a male figure at the time. And Jesus Christ, was he the worst possible guy for that. He looked like body type of Uncle Phil, but white and shaved head and like that's a whole thing. Anyway, I remember I was getting fucked with by just old white women. Like they were just afraid of me, no matter what I did. And I was venting. I should have been venting to an older black man, but I didn't have one.
Somebody who got it, but you didn't realize that it wasn't like common understood. Yeah.
And I remember he said, "Well, Aaron, it's your job to make people feel comfortable." And as it's like I'm a child.
That's a really hard thing to hear.
Yeah. And it's like, and this is just one of those. It's like your story where that's one moment coupled with a bunch of other stuff. Sure. That was just one moment, but that was one moment that I just happen to remember, but that was consistent, where every time I would bring up something, there's always like, but Aaron, it's your fault somehow.
Yeah, it's like that white woman started walking faster because you were walking on the same side of the street as her. You should have walked on the other side. You should have crossed the street out of respect.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
And it like threw me off because I'm a kid, and so I can't articulate
Right.
I can't articulate to an adult something so subtle and clearly, like,
Right.
look at our country right now.
Yeah.
Where it's right in people's faces and they still won't. So they're not going to listen to a fucking 14-year-old about it.
Right. Like, hey, man.
Yeah. And so it goes back and forth where I'm like, well, I fucking supposed to trust you.
Right.
You're the old guy around. I got to trust you. And it's so, like, frustrating. And then it bleeds into coming out here. I'm a much happier person. I'm, again, really glad you're meeting me now.
Yeah.
But when we went to Harrington's, there's the Irish shit and the goddamn American flag, and there's this that Mike in particular had that classic angry white dude energy, and my instinct now is like, I'm gonna get on stage and fucking piss you off. And it's like, that's not, I need to be able to control that as a comedian, I think. I don't know. I'm in
that's where it's, it's like, it's not your job to make them feel comfortable. Right. Like, but as a black man to white people, but then it's like, as a comic,
it's your job.
If you alienate people and they don't enjoy and you don't entertain them, you are technically still not doing your job. Right. So that's I'm
trying to be myself while simultaneously entertaining while also not pandering. It's a lot of balance, and I'm still trying to figure it out, I guess. And it's that feeling that, like, I guess, ignorant frustration towards black people that you had, I also had in a lot of ways, because black people weren't fucking with me either. Like, anytime I'd be around black people, they would say I was acting too white, or I wasn't wearing the right shit, or I wasn't doing whatever. Mm-hmm. And so you end up in this, like, island with yourself where you want to be friends with everybody, but you fucking hate everybody.
Right.
And it's such a weird, like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah.
That's a...
I don't know. I don't even...
Yeah, it's a we live in a weird world, man.
Is there an equivalent, like... Okay, so from your perspective, obviously you couldn't relate to exactly what I'm saying in the same way, but is there an equivalent in your experience that you could compare to what I'm saying? Is there something that I'm, like, when I talk about it,
yes,
I'm excited.
It's sports to fine arts.
Okay.
In high school.
Okay. So,
like, I very much kind of felt like I was just too nice. And, once again, I was still an asshole. I was a kid. But, like, I felt like I was too nice and too, like, thoughtful with the football players, right? And, like, I spent too much time, like, hey, like, let's not be dickheads to the opposing team just because they play for a different school. You know what I mean? Like, let's not be pieces of shit. We can be competitors and be competitive without being, unsportsmanlike and pieces of shit. And that was just like, interpreted as this guy, what a fucking homo this guy is.
Yeah.
Or, like, honestly, like, I've always been a lot more tolerant towards, like, homosexuality. Like, that was always the thing that I was like, why the fuck do I give a shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, gay people should be able to live their fucking lives, and so, like, being around football players and somebody being like, fuck you, fag, and I'd be like, yeah, it's not, but at the same time, it's like fag, I was like a word that I was fine using a little bit.
Same.
Like, just kind of as like a random thing, but I would never use that derogatorily towards somebody who was gay or to say you are homosexual. I'd be like, hey, stop acting like a fucking fag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, Louis C.K. did the whole thing.
He did a really good job at describing that feeling.
And it's like, yeah, Louis is, whatever, but that's a great way to describe that, that whole thing. So, but now, like, and then whenever I went over to theater, because, like, I had done a little bit of theater in 8th grade, and then freshman year I didn't do any, and then midway through my sophomore year of high school, I was like, I need to do that. I need to get back into theater, and so, like, auditioned for a musical and got in it, and it was like, people were like, wow, you're a really good singer, and you're a really good actor. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I remember the theater director, Mr. Stratton, whenever I first finished my audition for the musical, went, where have you been? I went football. And he was like, okay.
Being not gay, bro.
Right. Yeah. I was out there fucking ladies. Except I'm a virgin. No, but, like, I had way more pussy thanks to theater.
Them tights will do it.
That's the reality. No, but, like, and so I would, I was still like too macho and too fucking sports guy for the theater crowd that had, kind of, and part of it was like, yeah, I was culturally a part of that for my entire life. And this is new, like being in theater and being around gay people, right? Like I was in the costumers. I was in the, I was in the costumers guild because my high school, the tech theater class had guilds. You would go off and this is your job during this class. So there was a prop that we called it the Den of Thieves. This is the props room, kids that did props and stuff. And anyway, it was just the furthest place geographically from the actual theater room. And it was like through 3 locked doors that you had to get to the fabric room to and the one gay girl in our class, she was so shit. And we would the other 3 of us would fucking sit there and dick around. Of
course.
I snorted a line of glitter off the floor once. It was a blast.
That's high school.
It was a great time. But yeah, and so I remember one time I was explaining this fucking guy was being such a piece of shit. I was just like, fuck you, faggot. And I said that in front of her, and I was just kind of like, I am so sorry. And I didn't, and she knew I didn't mean that derogatorily towards gay people. And I think she saw that this is just, you're learning here. And she could kind of see that, which I was very grateful for. And she offered me a lot of grace, and it was pretty kind of done, I apologized and I said that wasn't okay. And I don't think I said it again. I don't think I've said it after that, to be honest.
Right.
Thinking
Mine
back,
is this type of conversation where we're talking about it.
Yeah, but I don't think I've used the term faggot derogatorily towards anybody since that moment, because I saw it hit somebody.
Yeah. I
saw that just firing bullets in the air. It's I saw it fucking come down and get someone, and I was like, that's not cool, So yeah, that was a moment, but that was kind of the similar thing where I felt too artsy and too feely for football, but also too macho and too sporty for theater.
It's funny because I think that that stand-up comedy is that in between.
Totally. Yeah.
It's the perfect rough, aggressive, angry, emotional art writing. Right. It's this weird balance.
Yeah. It's the island of misfit toys that didn't it didn't fit in on either thing, but they're a little bit of both. A lot of the cooler kids from school end up, or a lot of the people that you meet doing stand-up are the kids that were that kid was a cool kid in school that just, didn't quite, wasn't aligned with anything. And that was very much how I was. I had stoner friends, and I had goody two-shoes friends, and I had friends that were in shop, and I had friends that fucking hated everything, just didn't want to do shit, So, but none of them I was just I was never
a
oh
thing.
Yeah, this is what I am, and I'm a part of that thing alone,
I think it's hard growing up to be unique, for lack of a better word, but when you're an adult and you get to look back, it's worth it.
Right, you can feel very grateful in retrospect, but it's also it's a challenging way to grow up, and I think they're way less healthy. As much as I think comics will say this is the worst thing your kid can, my parents hate that I do this. It's no, being a stand-up comic is not the worst thing anybody could imagine doing.
Maybe in the 80s it was, but now
it's that was just a drug addict. That was just a fancy word for this guy that does drugs. But now it's this is a pretty healthy way for that kid to turn out, right? There's an entirely different side of that spectrum that, I can't even guess. Being a kind of the middle of the road, not sure who I am, right? That could end up, joining ISIS or something. Who knows, right? That's where you start looking for a community or somebody that cares, and what I mean. Just so many so many things like that. Where the fact that we all kind of found this thing in the middle is a really kind of cool thing.
I think that's what you just said. Community really resonates to me, that you hear, I don't know what your level of confidence was growing up or what people said. Was it high? Do you have high confidence?
Yeah, I thought I was the shit.
Okay.
Growing up, not even being hyperbolic, I thought I was fucking awesome.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I've come down quite considerably. I still have a lot of self-confidence, but it's not quite, it's earned at this point.
I can definitely see that, and it feels like I had the reverse, which I'm sure I guess you couldn't pick up on the insecurities, or
I mean, like, I guess if I had to do a psychological profile, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think this person felt great as a child. You know, especially like, so whenever kids aren't involved with sports, it's usually a lot less confidence growing up.
I was in basketball. I was in basketball and baseball as a kid. It's frustrating because I am an athletic guy. Like if
you've got a great build for both of those sports.
Yeah, dude. If I wanted to,
How long did you play them?
all throughout elementary school and into middle school and then high school.
So usually, like high school is where it's like middle school through high school is like the period where I'm like, that's the most important.
Yeah.
Where it's like, or to find something. But even then, like
sports is important.
Yeah, sports. It can be very important. It teaches a lot of lessons that I think other things can't. But also, there's the toxicness of it.
It's a balance.
But yeah, like I think on average, just speaking on averages, I would be like, yeah, you definitely seem like you grew up and things emotionally weren't easy.
No, yeah.
And they were very complex, and like that, that was a challenge for you. And I think like learning who you were and figuring yourself out, which now that I know it took a while.
It's happening.
Yeah, it took a long time, and we're in the nebulous of that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have been like, yeah, this person's probably, that was a thing that they went through, but having been through that, that's helped them become a better person because they know what that was.
Yeah, you get perspective of other people.
For sure.
And the community part of it, like I remember people being, you just need to be more confident and you need to not care what people think. And it's like, yeah, but you're a human being and you need a community. You can't be a fucking Tarzan, be alone. No, Tarzan even had apes or whatever the fuck he had.
Yeah, he was a part of the fucking,
Yeah, and coming out here, again, leaving that toxicity of where I was from, I feel myself building community. Like I told you, I mean, we didn't get onto it on the podcast, but as soon as I'm done here, which is probably going to be soon, I'm going to head right back to the Laugh Factory and just hang out there.
Cool.
Because they were nice to me. It's like they were just hanging out and nice.
Right. You're welcome.
Well, yeah, it's like I'm not, obviously you can't rely on other people's perspective of you to, all the stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it feels like you have nobody ever, that's just the worst feeling. And so I'm trying to be me, as honest of me as I can be, and then through that find the right people to build the community. Right. And I guess this is part of it, man. Yeah, this is you in my community now, bro. Dude.
Community, man.
I guess, we're at like an hour and 12. Is there anything? Normally the shit's about 20 to 30 minutes, so this will be different.
It's a lot more to talk about whenever you got another person in the room.
This is true. I don't know how Bill Burr does the Monday morning podcast the way he does. Yeah. But anything you want to say, talk about before we go? Also, are you down to do this again? I'm sure eventually I'll be like, hey, you want to do it again?
Sure, yeah.
All right, cool.
Come over, hang out while my kid's asleep. Yeah, man, I think we touched on a lot. I think just making it a point to be around good people, and that's, where I think a lot of it comes back to is like being around good people and the definition of a good person. And I think you also, like, you knew inside of you were good, and you could kind of see it start to come out whenever you took away some of the bad stuff. But like just knowing that, like, yeah, I say things sometimes that I regret even now, and like I worry about, I don't want to upset somebody, or like there was a ride that I gave you one time where I just kind of felt like I was like being way too notey. I give a lot of notes, especially about comics that I like and that stimulate me, because then I'm like, I'm writing for you. Like I'm just in my brain fucking thinking of tags or thinking about, that's where that joke fell short, right? And sometimes that's just not what people need, right? And so I felt like at one point I had gone a little too far.
I don't remember that.
I put you, it probably wasn't a big deal, but I was worried about it. I thought like, oh man, like I probably acted like a fucking douchebag there, But just being around people that like are gracious and understand that people aren't perfect, and being around people that are just like good people, I think is the biggest social currency that there is. Like, that was the thing, like with, reaching out to you and being like, wanting to foster this friendship was that like I wasn't like, yeah, this guy's the funniest comic around,
Yeah.
and I want to make friends with him because he's funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like that. I was like, I want to be around this person because this is a good person, and you deserve my support, right? Like you deserve me feeling excited for you for getting in with the Laugh Factory and feeling, you know, and getting that foot in the door there. Like that's fucking awesome because you're a good guy, and you know, you deserve that success, and you know, I think
I wish I could have met high school you, just out of curiosity. I wish I met 18 version you.
honestly I wouldn't have been that different. I think like a big part of it would be like my relationships with women were not healthy
Okay.
at that age. Mainly that was a big part of it, but also like there were just things about me that I was weird, or like I really didn't think about what I said,
Interesting.
you know. So like I could be just inconsiderate, you know.
I fucked up. You started. You went. No, I fucked up. I went into.
Now we're back.
Yeah,
into
we're
the
back into the
podcast
negativity.
mode.
No, we're gonna.
No, we're not in negativity.
I mean, you.
No.
You had a good little button there. You kind
Yeah, no.
A good little positive
Yeah.
button. I should have
Sometime-
ended there.
And hey, that's a great lesson for you podcast aficionados out there listening to this podcast. I do consulting for podcasts. You probably shouldn't do one.com. No. You know, that's where learning when not to talk is a huge tool as an interviewer, when to just and let the person, because like that's something that I think Johnny Carson talked about, like interviewing people, is when to
not talk.
when to let the other, because like you ask somebody a question and they're going blah, 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 and where you could offer a line or try to keep things going, letting them breathe for a second, then they can come and give you that one little nugget that just really makes it ties it all together and makes it good. You know, this is your first interview, and I think you did a great job.
Oh, thanks.
You know, I like as much as you're like, oh fuck, I messed it up. Like
Because it was such a good transition. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
having a good time.
All right. I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.